In his State of the State address this week, Governor Ducey called on Democrats and Republicans to work together on a number of initiatives. His agenda calls for improvements to school safety, but first he wants lawmakers to approve a drought contingency plan ahead of a January 31st deadline when the federal government says it will step in. While in Tucson this week, the governor sat down with us to discuss some of his proposals.
We've been excellent at water in Arizona. We're in the fourth fastest growing state in the nation. We're going to punch through 7 million in population in the state of Arizona. We're in the middle of a desert, and we're in a good position because giants have come before us. People like Bruce Babbitt and John Kyle, who were at my State of the State yesterday and with me this morning at a press conference, so that we can plan the next step for Arizona's water future. So growth is a good thing in our state. It's what's allowed our economy to grow. It's certainly a gift. Anybody who's been a business person knows that. We will be able to continue to grow with the proper planning and legislation. That's why I'm calling on the legislature. They've only got about 2 weeks to do it, to ratify the drought contingency plan, and we'll be in a terrific position going forward, and then we'll be able to focus on the next generational project.
Healthy choice and competition bring about innovation, and that's been the case in Arizona public education. But we also know improvements can be made.
The discussion then turned to public education reform. There's a surplus, there's a rainy day fund. Any money in there that would go toward charter school oversight, as you probably know, there was a report that came out that was somewhat unfavorable of charter schools and their deficit. Any plans there?
Well, I think we need resources. We need, of course, reforms, and we need more responsibility inside K-12. And it's not just on the schools of choice, it's across the board. We have issues around transparency and financial oversight. There were some issues that popped up in this last year, and we're going to put a focus on those. So we think these schools of choice are good for innovation, and that helps public education. But my goal is I want every child in the state of Arizona to have access to an excellent education. And when we see places where we can improve, we're going to act on that.
Use your what-if game. Okay.
The governor's budget also calls for improved school safety, including $9.3 million in funding for more school resource officers. It's going to be a hard sell for some people. How do you tell them this is the right plan?
Well, I think this is a balanced approach. I think the reason it's a hard sell is because it is so reasoned. It does really address both sides. This isn't a partisan issue. You know, something like a police officer on campus is important, and so are mental health counselors. We're going to have dollars for both. But I don't want to make this a partisan issue. I want to be proactive. This happened last year when the Parkland, Florida incident happened, and I was back in Washington and heard Governor Rick Scott of Florida talk about everything that the state of Florida was doing in reaction to that mass school shooting. And I came home and said, why don't we be proactive on this? Why don't we study what happened in Parkland and Columbine and Sandy Hook and see if there are things in public policy that could have prevented these tragedies from happening? That's the Arizona Safe School Plan, and I'm going to call on our legislators to pass this.
As you know, the officer at Parkland did not react the way that many believe that he should have. Is there a possibility of having school staff who are armed, or if they're willing to be also as an advocate for the students, if that were to happen?
The first thing I want to say is I have a lot of confidence in our men and women in blue in Arizona. What happened in Parkland with the sheriff's office was a matter of training. So I know the quality of training that happens here in the state of Arizona. I do trust a police officer on a campus to do the right thing and protect kids. When it comes to teachers in terms of being armed, I want to see our teachers teaching. Teachers go into education because they love kids and they want to make a difference. Now, sometimes there are former police officers, there are former people that have been in the military or who have been trained in firearms. If they want to be a part of this solution, I'm open-minded to that. But I'd rather that we bring a law enforcement focus where we need law enforcement and let our teachers teach and work directly with the kids.
These are programs we plan to build, expand, and align with the jobs of tomorrow.
The governor's budget also provides $20 million for Pima Community College to expand its aviation technology program.
Back in 2015, the state cut its funding to PCC, amounting to a loss of several $millions annually. But the college's recent efforts to bolster its technical training programs have caught the governor's attention.
And what Lee Lambert is doing at Pima Community College with aviation has really opened our eyes at the state capitol. And it's not just aviation, it's advanced manufacturing, it's pharmaceutical, it's the skilled trades.
You must be proud to do this, given that maybe a year or two ago, this wasn't quite the same tune that we had for community colleges.
Well, when you find leadership inside a community college, when you're getting these results, when people are coming out of these programs and going into the workforce, and today we have more jobs available in the state of Arizona than we have people to fill them. These career and technical education, these are the shop classes of the 21st century. Lee Lambert at Pima Community is doing it as good as anybody in the country, and that's something we want to invest in.